Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys joining me here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Today is August 18th, 2026. We are live. So good to have every single one of you guys. We have a very big show today to cover a few different topics. We're going to be covering local politics. We're going to be talking foreign policy as well as the Black community. So if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps me out very much to be able to reach more people so that I can actually be able to help, encourage, inspire, and activate, and as well as you can help support the channel. And we can also do more to inform ourselves, especially in times like these. We have to stay informed. Also, if you guys have not already, you guys subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. It gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles, so you guys have that there for you. Also, do you have a video that you would like for me to respond to and react to? Or if you guys would like to ask me a question and I video respond to you, you guys can do that through QBounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt. Good to see every single one of you. I'm going to say a blanket hello to everybody. As per usual, whenever I do have a guest that wants to be very respectful of their time, because they have lives, they're people too. And so I want to make sure that I am deeply respectful of that. Let's get into the thumbnails just so that you guys can see what we're going to be talking about today. And then we will be getting into our first segment. So later in the show today, we're going to be talking about how Trump is in danger. Not only is he in danger, but he's also endangering us. This is actually something that's coming out of Iran. And so I think we need to have this conversation because his brash and bombastic nature is really doing the empire in. Now, I'm no fan of the empire, but at the same time, I do not like the fact that he's putting us in harm's way. So we'll be talking about that. But also today is primary day here in Florida. We have the Republican and Democrat primaries that are happening simultaneously right now as we speak, and the polls close later on today. And this is why you guys see James Fishback and Byron Donalds in the thumbnail, because this is really the battle of the two Republican primary candidates and who will be the Republican candidate in the Florida gubernatorial race that will be happening soon. So we're going to be talking about that, as well as how people like me are being locked out of the primary process. But first, we're going to be talking to Miss Yvette Carnell. She is the president of ADOS, which is the American Descendants of Slavery Advocacy Foundation. So just giving you guys just a little bit bio of Miss Yvette Carnell. She is a Howard University graduate with a bachelor's in political science. She has worked on Capitol Hill as staff assistant to the United States of Barbara Boxer and legislative aide to Marion Barry, and also assistant chair of the Women's Vote Center at the Democratic National Committee. She has been featured in many major news media networks, ones like CNN and ABC, for her advocacy for reparations and uplifting the Black American community, as well as president and chair of the American Descendants of Slavery Advocacy Foundation, aka ADOS. I am proud to present to you guys Miss Yvette Carnell joining us. So good to have you on this, Yvette. And I got to make you smile. Oh my gosh! I promised that hey, she's so serious. She never smiles, and I'm like, let me see.
Hey, sometimes.
Sometimes a dad joke, because if I do a dad joke, she may never return.
Oh, I'm not going back. I'm not going back.
How's it going, Miss Yvette?
It's going pretty good. It's going. It's going. I mean, it's going as I would probably expect it to go. It could be going better, but it's going.
Yeah, I'm in Florida, so you know how it's going outside.
Oh yeah. Y'all got lost and lost, losers and losers. I'm talking about the Republicans. I'm not talking about the Democratic side of the ticket right now.
Yeah, it's like ooh. So it is. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's gonna be like lots of thunderstorms happening. But I really want to get into the conversation. I have a few questions that I would like to ask you. And it's really in no particular order, but one of the things that I wanted to start off with, what the question was, as part of the ADOS organization, what is the chief goal for those of us who are Black American, and how do we get there collectively?
Well, we are explicitly a political organization, right? So, and we also have the ADOS Empowerment Project. We have the ADOS Research Institute. But the ADOS, when we talk about the ADOS advocacy organization, we're talking about collective uplift. So obviously, reparations is the cornerstone of that. But we also have a Black agenda as well. And like, if we could just get right into it, that has been some of the problems and some of the fights that I've had with the Black left, right? Because we get into this conversation of, Yvette, well, how do you feel about empire? As opposed to saying, how can we work together, right? So if I'm in a situation where, hey, environmental racism is real, we see it in Cancer Alley, we see lead in Michigan. If I ask you, hey, are there ways we can work together, and you start talking to me about Eugene Debs, I'm going to have a problem. And I'm not saying we can't read all that stuff together, but part of my problem, and part of the problem that I'm having right now, is that there is no sense of collectivism. So when you ask what we're about the collective. We believe that in a time such as this, where things are this bad, I don't care whether I know we can't, Black MAGA is gone. They all need bail, and they all need pardons. And so they're just doing whatever. But there should not be a time where Black Americans, American descendants of chattel slavery in this country, can't find something to agree on. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I was having a conversation with a comrade earlier. There seems to be divisions even within the freedmen community. And it's like, some are saying that, well, the system itself is good enough. We just have to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps. But it's like what Dr. King said, talk about a bootless man, right? How do you tell him to pick up himself by his bootstraps? And the thing is, like, it's not just that we're bootless, is that the boots were actually stolen from us and we need the boots back.
Well, yeah.
But my thing is like, but how do we make sure that that thief doesn't take our boots anymore? And I think that's kind of what I'm alluding to, because a lot of times we'll think to ourselves like, well, we just gotta make it in this capitalist system. But at the same time, it's like, are we gearing ourselves to are we trying to repair so that we can just be at the same place as white people are right now? Or are we trying to achieve something more? But if we achieve something more, will we be able to continue to do it within the system that we have?
Let me answer your question with a question, which is always bad, but I'm going to do it anyway. How can you give yourself revolution if you can't give yourself rights? Right. So it's like we're missing basic rights. It's the same way I see a lot of people talking about Cuba. I see a lot of people talking about Haiti right now. And I see a lot of people talking about what should be done over there. And my whole thing is, if you cannot make this country do right by you, how are you going to make this country do right by another country? It's just not going to happen. So I do believe, like, if we were equal, then we could have this conversation. If we had gotten reparations and you saw a bunch of people just running around trying to be white and just trying to say, I'm okay with imperialism, I'm okay with this as long as I got what I got. If we were there, then we could have this conversation. And I don't like the conversation anyway, because nobody ever goes and tells the Native Americans, hey, we have to have revolution. Are you just trying to be white? They just got $60 million in June from Trump. And I didn't hear a word from anybody and say, hey, what are you trying to be white? Are you trying to be a part of empire? It's only when ADOS tried to have a conversation and all of a sudden, any kind of redress for us needs to, the precedent for that needs to be somehow America implodes in some kind of way. It just doesn't make sense to me. That is not the metric that anybody holds for anybody else. You see the Jewish community right now. Trump got the Holocaust, running around trying to grab stuff for Holocaust survivors, and really is their heirs at this point. And nobody says, hey, you were never in Auschwitz, right? And nobody says you don't need this stuff. They understand that this stuff still has value and it belongs to you. So first of all, I have a problem with the way these things are framed in such a way that, hey, it's always ADOS that has to, America has to fall before we get anything. And it's, this reparations is a debt. Now we can fight about how we exist inside of that. I can tell you what America's going to do when we go and get that debt. I can tell you how it's going to cause all kinds of chasms. We can talk about that. But this idea that, like, hey, you can't do anything outside of revolution when that's not the standard held for any other community, is always problematic to me.
Yeah. I don't want to be misunderstood. And if I made it sound that way, my apologies.
I know I'm probably speaking to other critics. I probably wasn't even hearing you. I was probably speaking more to like criticisms that I have heard about when people start having that conversation about reparations.
Yeah, I think that's the wrong angle that they're going at, or it's not quite accurate. Because first of all, when we talk about other groups are significantly smaller. And it's not just that. It's also the process of divide and conquer and creating resentment among the working class so that we'll be against each other. I think one of the biggest issues that we have now is that it is a useful tool to deny us what is owed to us just so that we'll have resentment towards other groups. And I think that we should still continue to keep fighting for that no matter what, because even when things do change in a dramatic way, we need to keep that in the forefront of everybody's mind. I just don't have faith that it will happen in this current system. I still want it to continue to fight by all means, just like, for instance, with healthcare for all. Yeah, continue to fight. I just don't have faith that it will happen within this system because, number one, the original sin, as it were, is against us, and well, it's Native Americans too, but the original sins were against us. And so it's like, we're never going to allow them to have real repair because then that means that the empire is basically over.
Afro-pessimism. Is it?
I think that, I think the empire it's a deterioration. And I think the deterioration has started.
And what is your job within that deterioration? While I get my earpiece back in, what is your job within that deterioration of empire?
And my job is in that deterioration?
Yeah.
To make sure the tree falls in the correct direction so it doesn't hit us in the house.
Okay.
Essentially. It can fall either way. The tree can fall on the top of our house, or it can fall in the field. I'd rather fall in the field instead. And so it's going to fall either way.
Okay.
But the question is, like, which direction are we pushing? And so part of that push is, yes, liberation for those of us who are Black Americans, the repair. At the same time, it's making sure that it's a reparations and not a reparations or.
Okay, now we're talking. So
what I mean is I think that reparations shouldn't be the end all be all. I think reparations should be a part of the real changing of what America is to something that we would want it to be, not as it originally was formed.
Okay. But let's say that that's not a possibility. Let's say, and we're just playing theoretical right now, right?
Sure.
Let's say some kind of way we get a new president in there, and this new president says we're going to do Medicare for all, we're going to do reparations, and most everything else is going to remain the same. Are we to say no to reparations because of that? Because it doesn't change the way that America operates? Or do we just still push to change the way America operates while also getting the thing that's owed to us?
Oh no, we do both. We do both. Because my thing is like I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
A lot of people are raving about Zohran Mamdani right now in New York. And I say those are, even though to me they're minimal, right, wins for the working class, I still am welcoming of it. At the same time, I still tell activists like me on the ground, do not stop. In fact, intensify your efforts to change things. Because it's like, yes, you got that win, but that win is very small in comparison to the grand scheme of things. So you need to keep pushing. And I think one of the biggest problems I have, especially with the liberals, is that once a Democrat is in office, they wash their hands and they fall asleep.
We saw that with Obama.
It's like, why are y'all falling asleep? Like, this is just a couple of winks that they're taking. you're not actually really changing anything. And my problem is that even like, for instance, let's say we do get the reparations. Let's say we do get the criminal justice reform. And let's say we do get the Medicare for all. The system's still in place. The people who are in power are still in power. So my thing is, it's like reparations, yes, thank you. And now we will change the entire government to serve all the people as well.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. Like, I don't think like this idea, yes, reparations is a debt, but it doesn't fix. It pays a specific debt. It doesn't fix everything that is wrong with America, right? So I don't believe that that's the case. And I don't believe that, hey, you get what you do and you sit down and you chill out. I don't think that's the case. And I don't think if that were to happen, I don't think America would allow that to happen anyway, right? I don't think they would allow us to kind of sit down and chill out. So like, I think I think you and I agree on that.
Yeah.
More than we disagree.
I'm actually trying to figure out what we do.
I'm listening.
But I'm trying to figure it out.
Listen, Paris, some of your leftists now, they disagree. Paris.
Well, okay. So I think some of them have the impression that many of us who are ADOS, freedmen, Black American, use whatever vernacular that you wish. They think that a lot of us are reparations absolutists, and then after reparations, nothing else. I think it's a misunderstanding about what the goal of organizations like ADOS is. And part of me is like, yeah, you guys could go to their website, research, ask people like you, Miss Yvette, or Mr. Antonio, about what your organization stands for. They can watch videos like this. But I think part of it's also they think that it is just to get reparations and then just keep the situation as it is, but without actually changing.
And let me push back. Even if it was, so what? Like, here's the problem I have. When Native Americans get money, they got billions during COVID. They just got some millions. Nobody says, hey, in order for this to work, you are going to have to do a whole bunch of work after this. Everybody just says they're deserving of that money, leave them alone. And hey, I'm sure you will want them to do more. But I just think it's just very unfair to hold us by a standard that you never hold anybody else to. Now, you and I have talked. I'm in favor of doing a whole lot more, because I think the group of people that I advocate for need a whole lot more. Right. But I don't like the standard. I don't like the fact that nobody protests. Nobody even knows the Native Americans got 60 million or whatever it was in June. Nobody cares that they got the billions. Nobody protested. It's only with us that people are saying, hey, yeah, you got to get this. If you're going to get this, what's going to happen next? I have a problem with the unfairness of the way this conversation is had as well. And I just don't see anybody having those conversations or making those demands of other groups. Like, when you look at us from slavery to Reconstruction to sharecropping to mass incarceration to convict leasing, we have been through the ringer for 400 years. And I don't think anybody has a right to tell us, hey, this has to happen for you to get reparations, or what should happen next. Now, you can try to convince me. I don't have any problem with you trying to have influence in our community in terms of having a conversation with me and saying, hey, Yvette, I think this should happen. I have a problem, though, when you think that I shouldn't have agency. And that's what I see a lot happening on the left. You just want to tell me what you think should be next and who you think I am and how you think I'm doing this wrong. And it's kind of like, hey, listen, I co-founded a movement. So if you think that your thing that you're doing is better, you can co-found a movement, or you can found a movement too, and we can clash. We can have a clash of ideas as you grow, right? But this idea that anybody gets to dictate to us what our project should look like is just problematic to me, because that to me is almost like, I don't think even some Black leftists don't understand. It's kind of racist for you to tell me what you think what I should feel and what I should do, as opposed to not engaging in good faith with me. You and I are talking now because my DMs are open, right? So like you didn't, most of the people are trying to have a conversation with me. They're trying to talk kind of at us as if we're the unwashed horde Negroes, and we just don't read and we don't know enough. We have a book club, we read all the time.
Mhm. Uh, So I'm just trying to make sure I fully understand. So it's the paternalistic type of response to, and it's really being overbearing and saying what we should and shouldn't have, and not. And you said like a self determination of what we want for ourselves. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be real. The left does have an issue with that. The left does have an issue, particularly the white left has an issue with that they have to do that. And this is why I continuously tell them is they need to decolonize their minds. Because a lot of times they will say, well, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And this is why I have my arguments with the class reductionists as well as the race reductionists. Race reductionists think that we can't do anything, class wise, because they say we just have to focus just completely on race. And then you have the class reductionists that says we got to focus everything completely on class. When in reality, being Black in America, it is in itself a class. Mm-hmm. But then I also have issues within our own community that also exhibit classism against those of us who are also within the community and say that I'm better than you just because of where you fell on the economic ladder. And so I think what has to happen is there needs to be a decentering of certain groups and thinking that they know what's best for us instead of just ask us and just accept what we say when it comes to the project of real liberation. And I think that's where you and I would assume you and I agree.
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that I have said is just like, it's not class or race, it's both. The thing is, I always say, class doesn't fix race and race doesn't fix lineage, because you have to have a specific kind of repair when you had a specific kind of harm that was targeted towards a group of people. And what I told a lot of leftists when they came out and started pushing, we have to look kind of past race. You remember one of the editors of Jacobin came out and said that when we first started the reparations movement. So I don't feel good about you already. You're coming out the gate. You never said anything to me. You never had a conversation. You said we have to look past reparations. Okay. Well, the problem that I have is we're a racialized bottom caste, and class doesn't fix us. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want broad class fixes. That doesn't mean I don't want a higher minimum wage. It doesn't mean I don't want universal health care. I do, but I still understand that people who have been restricted from owning anything, who have been restricted from owning assets for generations, are not going to be able to use a higher minimum wage or access to jobs to get what was taken away for generations. So there has to be a fix for that. And what I always told them was, listen, let's stop talking. And this is how I know when people are talking to me in bad faith. I said, let's stop talking about the trillions that are owed right now. We shouldn't, but hey, I'm gonna meet you where you are, and you're not very far. You're on the first yard line of your so you're not very far. So let's start talking about, I said, you all want to beat Clyburn and you have a problem with Clyburn because he's establishment. Clyburn has a bill that will give money to the descendants of the veterans of the Black American veterans who did not have access to the GI Bill. I said, can you start where Clyburn is? I said, hey, we have Tulsa race massacre survivors, one of them who just passed, Viola Fletcher, rest in peace, not too long ago. I said, can we commit to paying reparations to the survivors and their descendants? Can we put together something? We can make this piecemeal. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to start off big. We can start off with people who we know were actually harmed, because the courts are looking for actual harm right now. The harm actually exists inside the data. That's why we have a racial wealth gap or whatever. Let's start where we start. And I remember one guy blocked me. And it's just like, and it's just the stuff. If you want to call Clyburn establishment, and I believe he is, but you can't meet him where he is, you have a problem, and you're going to have a problem with us, because what is wrong if in your value system that you won't just co-sign doing that for veterans who missed out on the GI Bill? What is wrong in your mindset that you don't want to pay the Tulsa race massacre victims or their descendants? I can find people who were victims of land robbery and trace their lineage all the way back and pay their descendants. Why can't we at least start by putting together those kinds of bills? And what I get is fight for 15 or something. Or this is, hey, we're just better than Democrats. You all should be happy because we're better than Democrats.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we have to we really have to have a conversation about, especially on the left. One of the things that and you show this in the website, the ADOS website, but I would like to, have a further deeper discussion on this. And my next question is, so we both agree that cash payments for reparations is absolutely necessary. But in addition to that, what other policies should we implement to further repair?
Well, glad you asked. We do have a reparations framework that is available for purchase. So for everybody, we want to make sure that you just type it in, ADOS reparations framework. You can even get it at that devil Amazon, devil. But we have a framework that kind of traces how this would work, because everybody asks us, how does it work? How do you determine eligibility? All of these things. So we have a framework where we've kind of hashed that out for everybody. And the only thing we're really waiting on at this point is kind of agreement, right? Everything else is just part of a Black agenda, and the Black agenda includes everyone. It's not just an ADOS specific thing. Reparations is a justice claim for the people who descend from enslaved people. That's not all we're doing. And so I just, from the left, I just get kind of dismissiveness of, and I think, I've said this before, but I think Democrats, regular Democrats, establishment Democrats, Republicans, and the left all have an idea of what this country should look like. And I think a racialized bottom caste is always a part of it, right? Because the right wing just wants us, basically, it seems like, to still be butlers and maids. The establishment Democrats want us to just get the crumbs from the table and be a captured vote, because they know we'll never vote Republican. And it seems like leftists say, hey, we're going to be better than Democrats, and that should be enough for you. And we don't get to define what enough looks like for ourselves.
I got you. Yeah, definitely. And that definition of what looks better for ourselves is a conversation that I think that needs to be had, especially because there are some of us that want to see certain policies implemented. And I wonder if some of those policies would get in the way of us being unified. Like, for instance, there are some social policies that some of us want for us as Black Americans. But I think one of the biggest issues is if we disagree on certain social issues, are we going to be able to come together for the economic ones? Because largely this is economic and environmental issues that we're talking about. Will we be, because as people should know by now, we're not a monolith and we have many disagreements with each other. But are we willing to put those disagreements to the side for economic gains for us as a people, so that we can get ourselves to that place of full repair?
Yeah, one of the things I've said is that we should get in a room, Black Americans. When I say that, I mean ADOS liberals, leftists, and we should just hash it out. And we should just figure out, hey, what things do we agree on? We know we disagree on some stuff. What do we agree on? And I'm not talking no white, no people of color. I'm sorry, just us. What do we agree on? And then we should come out of that and agree that, hey, these are our priorities, and we're going to fight for these things. And you can fight from the left, and I can fight from the middle flank, or whatever the case may be. But this whole idea of that you're going to be oppositional to somebody who needs 80% of the same stuff that you need, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't think this is the time for an ideological purity test. It's a time to put together the Venn diagram and figure out, okay, where can we agree? When I talk to people, hey, we find out, even when they're on the left, when they're a Black American on the left, I found out that we agree on at least 70% of things. So I don't understand why we hollering at each other. If we agree on 70% of things, why aren't we putting everything we have behind that 70% of that advocacy? As opposed to just saying, I had somebody ask me in the chat, well, do you believe in private property? Listen, I'm not doing this with you. Listen, we have We have all kinds of environmental racism. We have police brutality. We have wealth calcification at the top. We want to break that up. I want to break it up. We have you want to talk about a billionaire tax? Me too. I want to talk about what we do with it once we break it up too. We have too much that we agree on to be finding ways to be disagreeable with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And but my question is, how do we get ourselves into that room? Right? Like, how do we, because is hurting Black Americans like hurting cats in order for us to get into a room to really get this done? Or should something so bad happen to us that we finally go, that's it, okay, we need to get into a room? And I don't want us to get to that point.
I think it's that bad now. And I don't even think it's that bad. I think the opportunity is that good. I think after Trump, I think the pendulum is going to swing the other way. And I think we will be so busy fighting. And it's really a lot of y'all, I'm calling out, really a lot of y'all on the Black left. Like, y'all will find ways to be mad. Y'all will find ways to, oh, Yvette did this. Oh, Yvette said that. Oh, Yvette said this in the summer of 2019. Y'all will find ways to be disagreeable as if that is uplift. And I don't know what it is. Somebody has to tell me whether y'all are performing for the white gays. I don't know what that is. But I see a lot of the same stuff I criticize in Black American liberals in the left now, who are just, well, Martin Luther King was a socialist. Yeah, he also wanted reparations too, though. You're gonna leave that part out? Like, are you gonna build a Butcher King as a Black American? Like, is that what we're doing now? Is that what you stepping and fetching like that? You soft shoeing like that? Don't tell me who you are if that's how your politics is. But I think we should get into a room and we should say, listen, this is how we're going to navigate. We agree on this. We have an agenda that we agree on these things. I don't want to hear about your ideology. I don't want to hear about any purity tests. I don't want to hear about any litmus tests. What do we agree on? And what we agree on is what we should be fighting for in any room that we get in. So if you don't agree with me on reparations, I don't see why. But if your thing is environmental racism, and you've been working on that, and you've been down there in Kansas Alley, whatever, that's your thing. That's your thing. If your thing, even if with some of the liberals, if your thing is business and you've been working to try to get more funding for that, that's your thing. That's your thing. I'm not going to disagree with that. I can find ways to partner with people who I don't agree with 100%. So I don't understand I don't get the antagonism.
I'm thinking, I'm trying to parse through my mind exactly the reasoning for the antagonisms. I think some of the antagonisms may be that to them, reparations is important, but in their mind, it will never be achieved. So as long as capitalism exists. So it's like, to them, the bigger fight is against the system. My pushback, though, against that is the fight against capitalism and ending this system is going to be a long one. It's going to be a long, hard fought. And I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, we've been doing it for damn near 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It feels like I'm still at the point where I feel like, yeah, we should still continue to fight, at least on, the front that everybody continues to see it. But at the same time, I think we can do both, right? Like, for instance, I do mutual aid, and I live in a predominantly Black American community, and I do mutual aid in my area, right? I can do that, but also, I also try to bring forth the message of reparations on my channel, and I talk about it with, friends and comrades, and, I bring them the information. And they see how logical it is, and they say, well, hey, this is definitely worthy of, and it is owed. And so I think we should be able to do that. I just think some are kind of caught in this, I guess they use the word purity fetish, I guess.
Well, yeah, and nobody tells anybody else. America's done reparations a number of times, and nobody else got told, hey, we got to take down America before we can get reparations. And listen, we just saw the Boston wealth study come out. This is about 10 or 11 years since they found that the average Black American had $8, right? The wealth now is $7,000. I appreciate everybody who does mutual aid. ADOS Foundation does some of that too. Research, ADOS Empowerment Project. But let me just say, there's a certain point where that's not going to work no more. Or it's not going to, we're falling off a cliff, right? We're falling off an economic cliff. And so we should always help each other. That's part of our culture. But what I'm telling you is that like we can never be a substitute for what government should do and what government owes you. And so I always have a problem with people like capitalism has to end before we have to have reparations. You ain't told it to nobody else. The people who got radiation or whatever happened to them, they're getting reparations right now. The Native Americans just got another 60 million after getting the billions in COVID. Nobody said anything. We're throwing a bunch of money at a stupid war in Iran right now. And hey, it is what it is. We have money to do it. And I'm not saying everything happens in one wallow, but we have money to start this project. We just don't have enough people backing us starting this project. And I think a lot of these people are Afro-pessimists. I think part of the problem with the left is that it's led by Afro-pessimists who don't believe that reparations is possible, but somehow they believe Medicare for all can happen tomorrow.
Yeah. The system itself, I just don't have faith in the United States doing this, because how long we've been trying to get this done since 1865, right? And because of this battle that has been fought for 150 years, we've been fighting this battle. It's not for them. It's not in their best interest. I'm talking about the powers that be. It's not in their best interest to do it, because then that means that if they acquiesce to us in something this large, that is damage to their hull. And then other groups will see, well, hey, you guys can do all that for Black Americans. Well, then we're going to ask for stuff too. And that means that the fall of the empire will come even faster. And so, honestly,
well, that means that I feel like the leftists who always talk about fall of empire should be very pro reparations then.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think the pro reparations and a comrade said this like 2 years ago. He said, if you're a Marxist, then you should be pro reparations, because all that money, all that stolen surplus value that has been taken from us should be paid back. That is actually a Marxist position too. Yeah,
and it's also then I hear people talk about the money that goes to Israel and all those sorts of things. Like you kind of want to gut America of having the money in the budget to do that, right? And I can think of a more expensive project that is more justice related than reparations for ADOS. So if you're really talking about, hey, I don't want imperialism, I don't want America's adventures abroad, you have to think of a project that costs enough to where America can't do that. Now I have to push back against. I understand what you're saying about America's not doing it and that sort of thing, and having the belief. But I think people who were routinely hung from trees back in the day would not have believed that they were going to have a civil rights act. They were ever going to have a voting rights act. They were ever going to be made American. I think that you never know what God will do. I'm not an atheist, so I think you never know, because I think they had every reason to be pessimistic. They didn't have any control over their lives whatsoever. They were sold like cattle. And so I think they had every reason to believe that America ain't never going to do nothing. And they still revolted and they still fought. And because they fought, you and I are talking right now through technology, through computers, and in homes. Like they might be the best, but we are here because those people believed that something else was possible on the other side. And I think we have to maintain that, because I think when people talk about the Black liberation struggle, they understand that that is part of it. If those people had been as pessimistic as some of the people that I see today, we wouldn't be sitting here talking to each other.
Mm-hmm. I think we're engaging with that right now. Your ancestors and my ancestors, we are you know, the dream that they hope for, that we have advanced. And I think you and I are doing what our ancestors dreamed of as well. We're dreaming of, you know, generations ahead of us, that they will be even further along than we are. And I think conversations like this are helpful, because then the younger generations will see this, you know, Miss Yvette and James talking about this. And as things continue within, as this spinning rock that we're on, things will advance to a point where they're like, okay, now's our time to strike, you know, in whatever way that is more feasible, so that we can actually get what we are owed. Because I look at the younger generations now, and it was just yesterday, a young man was found hanging in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like the trend of Black death in this gruesome way is going back up again. I don't know if it's just we're seeing more of it because of the digital media that we have, or if it's an escalation, but it feels like an escalation. And so I don't know, it's just, you know, the work that you do and the work that I do, I think it keeps us busy so that we don't fall into a pessimism while we're continuing this fight. You know, I'm just trying to figure out in my mind, how do we continue to wake our fellow Black Americans up and say, hey, we have to do more. But how do you do more when we're being overworked, underpaid, and neglected to death? You know?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, we have, if you look at the polling on reparations pre-ADOS movement and after ADOS movement, we've actually like shifted the needle. And we don't need everybody in order to make this work. What we do need, though, on the left and amongst liberals, is people who are not fighting against us as much as they are. Right? Mm-hmm. There is no corner for us. There is no solidarity for us. And people always talk to me about solidarity. Well, I can't even get you to co-sign some stuff that's just in your face, a justice bill. When we talk about Tulsa, when we talk about the GI, I can't even get you to co-sign that. So how are we in solidarity? So for me, I can change the hearts and minds of people who have to go to work every day, and I can show them how reparations enhances their lives and how it's not a handout, it's something that they would do. I can't get past these political people who are theorizing that nothing good can happen unless America falls. Like, and I think that is an inherently racist view, because we've given billions and millions to other groups, and you didn't say, hey, you can't have this money until America falls. Now, maybe America falls because this money has been given out, but nobody told us, hey, in order to do it, you have to be that way. But when you think about it, that's always the way it is for us. The Civil Rights Act included everybody. We never were able to get anything just for ourselves. Everything that we tried to do includes everybody. We could never have any kind of affirmative action that was just for the people that was intended for. With that speech LBJ made at Howard University, it's got to include everybody. So we've never, whenever we try to do something that specifically addresses the harm that was specific to us, everybody jumps in and says, hey, you can do it if I can get some too. And and that's thievery to me. There's no other way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. They do it for other groups because it's not that much of a harm to them. This is why, like, for instance, they gave reparations to Jewish Americans because their feelings were hurt over what was being said in college campuses. It was easy to do. It's easy to give, some more money to some Native Americans because their population is so small. It's easy to be able to do all that.
Yeah, but stuff. How much money do we give Israel each year?
It's not small. That's easy. Because it helps them to be able to maintain control of an area so that they can have all the resources there.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's not small.
Them to do that.
But what I would say to leftists is, y'all don't even want to start small. You won't even come and say, listen, okay, you gave me 3 bills that we can put together and say this is the start of a reparations package. Mm-hmm. Start. When I say let's start, I get pushed back. Even if I say, hey, you can start small, you don't have to start with the trillions. But I think any leftist, like we've discussed, should want to start with that, because you want to end the empire, you can bankrupt them with reparations. So I hey, you should want to start there. But hey, if you want to just start small, we can do it. If when I mentioned, I gave somebody else, I gave a leftist 5 bills that I wanted to start with. Mm-hmm. These were not even $1 trillion bills. These were $1 billion. This was worth a few $1 billion. Block me. Listen, there is no willingness. Everything begins with the willingness. The willingness is not just amongst the American government and the people in power. There is no willingness amongst the white left. There is no willingness amongst a lot of the black left, which I'm gonna say it, and if they be mad, don't be mad at James, be mad at me. I think a lot of y'all are performers. I think you perform for the white left and for the white gays the same way Joy Reid performs for the white liberal gays, instead of us all getting into a room and say, this is important and we have to fight for it. And we can start here. We don't have to start with the biggest items in the room. We can start with the stuff that's easiest to pass and just keep going from there, because even that sets the precedent. If Obama had done for Tulsa what needed to be done in terms of an investigation and all those sorts of things, and put his finger on that, they could have gotten something. So what I'm saying is that even these small things are precedents that we can set. And I just don't see a willingness coming from the left. And the left's got to go through South Carolina, and they want to be able to communicate with the ADOS people who are there, and they're there to be a firewall against leftism, right? In favor of establishment Democrats, but they won't do the thing that's going to get them to get an ear from those Southern Negroes. So good luck.
Yeah, my only issue with the Democrats is, of course, a lot of us see them as two sides to the same coin. One will distract, and the other one will say no. And so they both feel the same way. It's just that one doesn't have the guts to say no. They'll say no behind our back. And so, James Clyburn put the bill out, but did he put the bill out during the Democratic administration, or did he do it under Republican administration while knowing that it was going to be shot down? And so this is one of the reasons why I have a problem with the Democrats even trying to go through them, because they're going to say yes when there's the opportunity for it to be shot down.
But here's the thing. But here's how the left could one up them, though. Like, the left has to say, listen, James Clyburn put this bill up for these World War II veterans, right? He put this bill up. I'm gonna get it passed. I'm gonna make it a priority. The families of these soldiers who were denied jail, they waited too long. What your Black American congressman couldn't do, I'm gonna do for you. That's how you get through South Carolina, is understanding everything that's wrong, everything from the infrastructure, from the history, the historical stuff. So I'm saying, take what Democrats did not do for us and use it against them to gain power. Don't be like them.
But how do they do that?
Advocate for it. This bill is here. The Tulsa victims have been in the news for years. This stuff is here. Hey, talk to me. I will tell you which bills that you can advocate for. And they won't even be able to use the price tag, because these are not. How much do you think it would cost to pay the victims of the Tulsa race massacre? We're talking millions for them. Listen, you could have a bunch of this stuff, and you could say, listen, we're going to start a reparations project. This is the beginning of a reparations project. I'm going to show you the way that your community is still poor under James Clyburn. He's been here for years. You're still poor. You don't have enough. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to bring resources in this community on your behalf. Give me the opportunity to serve.
I understand. My problem is, though, it's like, what apparatus does the left actually go through? Do they go through the Democratic Party? Do they go third party? How do they?
They got to go through the Democratic Party. I'm talking about the road to the White House.
Okay, so going through the Democratic Party, that's really a road to nowhere, because every single time, somebody who's actually on the left, I'm not talking about the pseudo left, right? I'm not talking about the Mamdanis and the AOCs and people like that. That's not who I'm talking about. They're not actually the left. When I talk about the actual left, they will not get an ear. They will not get any support from the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party, their role is to stop the left, even when we advocate for reparations and the advocacy for Black Americans, because then that means that you're taking power away from the ruling class in order to give it to the lowest class on the ladder. And to them, that is the big no-no. And so I'm not trying to say that, because the white left, especially, they definitely have they have some issues in regards to anti-Blackness, things like that. I'm not arguing that. The problem that I see, though, is that we continuously think that we can somehow go through the Democratic Party. And if there's wins, great, but those wins are quickly swiped away, especially when a Republican administration comes in. Look at what just happened in Evanston, Illinois, when they were giving $25,000 to Black residents who, were given that money as reparations through housing discrimination. The Trump administration, their Department of Justice said, nope, you can't have that. And so it's I have the door open for the Republicans every single time because
but I have my own criticisms about how that was done, and I think it was kind of sloppily done, and that's part of the reason they just opened the door for Ed Blum.
I had fear about that.
Yeah, they left that door for Ed Blum to kind of come in there, and I'm not saying Ed Blum's a motherfucker, but I'm not saying don't look at he's going after everything, but I do believe that there's an opportunity here, right? I do believe that there's an opportunity for things to be different than they have ever been, right? And I know that there's an opportunity to swing things to the left in the way that Trump swung them to the right and just gave everything, like not even under the cover of darkness, like the George W. Bush administration, just gave everything giveaways to all of his cronies, and it became a kleptocracy and a digital oligarchy. I do believe that there's a new opportunity here, but that opportunity that exists for people on the left and ADOS people who are not on the left, right, will require a different type of solidarity that I don't think the left is ready for.
I'm going to say something that might get me in trouble, and it's going to sound very, very reckless, Miss Yvette. We cannot ask for reparations, and we cannot try to work with them. Reparations has to be taken. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I've been racking my brain over this.
It's never had to be taken by anybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why do we have to all of a sudden take up arms and go get what's owed? And the thing is, I will believe you. I will believe you if we have been trying. Listen, when the Black Panthers came about, some of the stuff kind of made sense because we had leaders who had been fighting for a very long time, and they got stuff, right? And they got rights, but not redistribution. So it kind of makes sense. When people say we're going to have to go take it, I haven't seen you all try to, I'm not talking about you specifically, but I haven't seen y'all try to politically do it. Like, you can't say we got to go take it, we got to go do it, and we got to really get out there and be revolutionaries. I haven't even seen people be political revolutionaries, much less anything else. So listen, show me that you can politically do it before we start talking about anything else. I haven't seen the advocacy around it. I saw the white left come out right in the beginning of the ADOS movement and say we have to look beyond reparations. When that's the case, there is no will to do it. There's no will. The will doesn't exist on the white left. It exists amongst us. We've seen the polls go high. It exists. It doesn't exist among, I don't even think it exists amongst Black leftists. And if you don't have the will to fight politically for something, you ain't gonna bust a group. You ain't bust a grape and a fruit fight when anything else pop off.
That's true. But also remember that the left is actually not as big as people think.
I know. That's why I think you have to go through the Democratic Party. And I think opportunities will exist there that have never existed before in reaction to Trump. I think reaction to Trump, you will have an opportunity that you were never going to have again in the next 100 years. And either Democrat, you can have a Democrat to take it back, or you can have somebody to fight for something. I just don't think. And if you don't, and if you tell me, like you just told me, we don't have numbers in the left, you got to figure something else out.
Well, okay, so Trump is the greatest fundraising tool that the Democrats have ever had. They love the fact that Trump's there. They love that the fact that, once we go to them, it's like, sorry, we could, but we can't because, that guy, he's in office. And so they don't actually have to fight for us because ultimately there's money to be made within the Democratic Party. You got to remember, my sister Savvy Sav, she actually had on the Becks who actually, argued for the DNC fraud lawsuit that basically the DNC is just a, private organization. It's not a bureaucratic institution. And so therefore there's money to just be made. These campaigns, they just are there to make money. A lot of these campaigns, they're not, the ones that are not really winning, the staff is making money. The consultants are making money.
That was even in the missing chapter of that autopsy. The New York Times published something from the missing chapter, and it was saying that generational wealth has been made through that campaign. What I'm saying though is that the energy has shifted. And the question that I have is how people are going to take advantage of that energy. The energy isn't with Kamala Harris and the people that she paid to do that work. People understand that that was an abysmal failure. People understand that Biden, you know, people say, oh, he did better than whatever. People understand, no, that's not the kind of radical change we want. People thought hope and change was Obama. I think that this country is prepared to give people on the left an opportunity and see if they can do it and see if they can govern as opposed to just campaign. I believe that's a possibility now, but I understand that the left cannot do that without Black Americans, and they cannot go through us. They have to go with us, and I think they have to understand that. But I do listen. I'm not saying that the opportunity is just everybody gets everything they need and want in the whole kit and caboodle, but there is an opportunity here to remake America after Trump is gone, or you can have JD Vance again. It's gonna be up to us.
Honestly, and this is my political opinion analysis. In 2028, we're not going to get JD Vance. We're going to get Marco Rubio, and I think he's going to be much worse.
Oh yeah, that's a strong possibility. That's the fight, though. We know that's the fight. It's Vance and Rubio. That's the fight.
Yeah.
And I don't see anybody. I don't see a Democrat or anybody on the left who is prepared to take on that fight. People talking about, oh, we have to get the White House. No, I don't see y'all prepared to take on that fight. I don't see a willingness to build a coalition to take on that fight.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, it's trying to attain power while the system's still in place. It to a lot of the left, including the Black left, is really a fool's errand to a lot of us.
Well, I think y'all are going to die without power. I think you're just going to die without power then, because I think power exists there, and I think this is a unique opportunity to go and take some of it. Now, nobody knows how long that lasts, because capital is always going to come back and take what you took from it. That's why even after the small gains of the civil rights movement, like even after we were not in the New Deal, we were carved out. But even after the small gains, the white people got to the New Deal, they broke the power memo and they came back and took it. They're going to always come back, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when they try to come back, that's when you can say, hey, we might have to do what we have to do. But what I'm saying is there's an opportunity here, and I would not overlook that opportunity by saying, hey, we got to wait for empire power.
But this is the point of building dual power instead of trying to go through the government apparatus as it is. And this is one of the reasons why the Black Panthers were considered so dangerous, is because they were building dual power. And so
what happened to
it? I think that a lot of us were spooked when the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army were taken down by the government. But the thing is, it's like that's the harder fight to win, because ultimately it is never going to be achieved through this current system, because
but it's not going to be achieved through the other system too. It has to be, like you say, dual power. It can't be achieved through the other system too, but they can just kill you. Like, so you have to have something in both places. You just can't. They don't want you out here feeding, giving little kids breakfast. Right? You showed it. Like, what I'm telling you is not possible is possible by these Black Panthers who are willing to like do pancakes and give you breakfast and still protect you in the streets. So they will just come and take you out. So there has to be something else. There has to be a coalition. There has to be collaboration on various levels to make this happen. It cannot just be we're helping people over here. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that at all. I think the breakfast program and all of the stuff that they did was phenomenal. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm saying there has to be some political power. There has to, or else they just kill us, and nobody, or put us in jail and let us rot, and people forget that we're even there. But if the Panthers even there, nobody thinks about the Panthers that were locked up and left in jail. Nobody goes and tries to get them out. Like, I'm not saying that people don't visit them. I'm not saying, but I'm saying that you have to have some political power. The idea that you can operate and just be over here, I don't think it works. Somebody has to be able to say, no, we're not this CIA project. We're not going to do that. I just, there can't be, somebody has to be in power somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I have more questions, but I got to throw those out. I've covered a good amount of time.
All good. We can do it again sometimes.
Yeah, we could do it again sometime. I mean, this was a lively conversation, because I don't do debates. I don't like debating. I like to have conversations, and this went really well. And you kept me on my toes, Miss Yvette.
Hey, I appreciate it. You too. It's a good conversation.
But if you can let people know where they can find you, and also all the things in regards to the foundation and what next steps you guys have coming up too as well.
Oh, we got a lot coming. Listen, we have chapters all over the country now. ADOS Advocacy Foundation. You can go to joinados.com if you want to join. If not, just want to see what we're about. James has the page up now, adosfoundation.org. Just check us out and see what we're about. And listen, we love to have you in one of our chapters. We love to have you doing the work. Feel free to reach out. I'm at Breaking Brown on Twitter. And the org is at ADOS-AF on Twitter. So feel free to reach out if you want to, and give us a follow there. And I'm Yvette Carnell on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And Y Carnell on Patreon. So
Miss Yvette, it was a pleasure and a privilege to have you on. Thank you so very much for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was Miss Yvette Carnell, president and chair of the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. Thank you so very much for joining in, everybody. And that was an interesting conversation to have. I've been wanting to have that conversation for quite some time. And I think it is, worthy of us to be able to kind of throw the ball to each other to see, the ideas and how it pans out. And just let me know what you guys think, because I know you guys have a lot of opinions, especially. So if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. I'm going to be thanking the patrons, and then we shall be getting into the comments to see what you guys think. And we will get on to our next segments as well. So I just want to give a big, huge shout out and thank you to all the patrons who are on Patreon, who have been helping me to keep this channel alive. You guys have helped me so much. So here are the tiers. We have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, and Jaybefaunters. Then we also have Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And thank you to all new members who have joined. It's deeply appreciated. You guys make this channel run and keep the lights on. So I appreciate it so very much. All right. Let's check on the Rumble side to see if there's any Rumble rants, as well as we're going to check. Actually, let me check Kick first. And then let me check to see if we have anything on Rumble. Kick is good. All right. Let's check on the Rumble side. See if we have any Rumble rants. Okay, we're good on the Rumble side. All right, perfect. Let's go into the YouTube side and let's check there and see what people are saying. Ooh, she kept me on my toes. My goodness. Hang on. All right. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything that was starred. So I'm going to go to the super chats first, super chats and super stickers first, and then we'll get to the rest of the comments and say our hellos. So thank you very much for this, Roger Meadows. It says, too many people romanticize revolution without truly understanding what it entails. If you aren't ready to pass away or take them out, then stop. Bring change through CBI. Thank you very much for that. And I think one of the misconceptions about revolution is that it automatically means going in guns a-blazing. The first step to revolution is education. Education. And one of the other steps is building dual power, right? And what does that mean? That means building areas that the government is lacking in so that you can help the people within your general vicinity. And of course, you have systems of protection, but also systems of education, systems of food, systems of being able to help out with housing, systems. You're building new systems that is devoid of the isms or that is devoid of the bigotry that is deeply embedded within our current system. And so that is some of the first steps. And if you don't have that, you can have a whole arsenal if you want. You're never going to achieve what you need to achieve because you don't have a new system in place. You have to build the foundation and gather all the supplies before you get the nail gun and start putting, 2x4s together. Understand what I mean? So I think that's kind of it's kind of missed upon a lot of people. It's while this current power structure is in place, you build a new one so that when the people have needs that you're helping, they don't go without. They just merge over to that new system, and their needs may not be as fully met, but they are supplemented until a new complete government is formed. But that's what I mean by building dual power. So I hope, I don't confuse people with that term. So thank you for this super sticker, Teresa. All right, thank you so very much for the super sticker. Appreciate it as always. Let's get into the chats here. I wanted to, let me see, let's get that one. You see, Edward said, the other one I'll save for the next segment, but Edward says, personally, I don't think that electing a Democrat or Republican will do any good. It is selecting only one shitty sandwich over another. Thank you so very much for that. Holly coming in saying, hello, JB, an essential part of Tuesdays. Thank you so very much for that. Randy says, good afternoon, JB and Revolutionary Comrades. Thank you so very much for coming in. You have John Kemper, a.k.a. Adam Bashir, a.k.a. Blue Marvel, coming in saying, peace, love, and solidarity. Thank you so very much to you as well for joining in. Bryce coming in saying, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, JB. Good to see you, Bryce. Nice to have you here in the chat as well. Roger Meadows coming in saying, hey, yo. Don't ask the kids what that means, Roger. Gen Z has a different meaning of yo. Don't ask, for God's sakes. Okay. We have Solly coming in saying, yeah, good to see you, Solly. All right, nice to have you. Big Daddy is watching. Somebody's watching me. He says, peace and love. Good to see you. Big Daddy. We have, let me see, we have Farid saying revolution is the only lasting way to get and keep rights. Big Daddy says we're always limiting the possibilities out of fear. That's a point that I actually been wanting to make, but yes, I agree. We can dream bigger. Sean says, hey JB, sad to hear the voice of Carrie from Kingdom Hearts has passed away. I gotta talk to my nephew about that because he grew up on Kingdom Hearts. I didn't. And so for me, it's not as big of a deal. I did not really know Hayden Panettiere like that. I always got her mixed up with Julianne Hough. I get them both mixed up all the time. And so for me, when I heard, I knew who she was from those Neutrogena commercials, but I didn't know who she was, right? So, and it's sad, and and also the fact that she was coming out about the abuses in Hollywood. It is very fishy behind her passing. So keep an eye on that story. I know Sabby Sabs covered it, so keep an eye on her channel for that one. Skylar coming in saying, hi, JB. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, Skylar. 42 Tribes says ADOS has helped argue reparations up to the point where it is politically feasible. Thank you so very much for that. There's a lot of groups, but ADOS is probably, I think it's the most famous organization. And so it is quite interesting to see how reparations is becoming more and more of a topic of conversation. I am actually curious to see if this comes up. I would actually love to see if this comes up in the gubernatorial debates for here in Florida. I do, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Byron Donalds isn't for reparations. And even if reparations was implemented here in the United States, he wouldn't get reparations because I think that he is of Jamaican descent. Therefore, his lineage would not get reparations because he would have to seek reparations from England, aka Britain, not from the United States. So for him, it doesn't matter. So, but it'll be interesting. And I have a feeling it's going to be Byron Donalds versus David Jolly for the gubernatorial race here in Florida. We'll be getting into that in the next segment, by the way. But yeah, I would like to see somebody, because slavery was, abundant here in Florida as well. I would love to see that come up in a gubernatorial debate. And it'd be very funny to see if David Jolly would actually be for it, because he's a former Republican. He's still a Republican. He's just more Reagan Republican, which is slightly to the left of Trump Republican. So he's still a Republican. But anyways, yeah, I honestly do think that would be a good question to come up. Skylar says, "Ooh, that's a good analogy with the tree falling." Thank you very much. I try. I try. My brain isn't working as well as it should today. The tea helped a little bit, but my brain was just like not working as good as it should today. I don't know why. Maybe it's just nervousness. Maybe it was, that. Teresa says BDS. Yes. Hello, good peeps. Teresa also says land back now. And I'll be honest with you, yes, did Native Americans get that? I have to look it up, but probably. But that is crumbs compared to what they've been demanding for years, which is land back. So it's still not, totally given. But they have been getting little increments of things throughout the years. Let's see. Maverick says, would rather my tax dollars go to that than corporate bailouts. That's true. I wouldn't want to see more corporate bailouts go to a company like Wells Fargo, especially since they were, a huge part of slavery here in the United States. I think that, in fact, that all the shares of Wells Fargo should be given to Black Americans. And Black Americans should just own Wells Fargo collectively, or completely dissolve Wells Fargo, sell everything off, and give all the money to Black Americans collectively. Either way, but reparations is owed. Let me see. Thomas, Oklahoma says, difference is the Native tribes are sovereign nations who made treaties with the U.S. government. A nation-to-nation agreement, as the natives gave up vast lands, etc. Blacks wanted civil rights as ethnic group. Thank you very much for that distinction, Thomas. Appreciate it very much. Maverick saying Saint Roger throwing fireballs as per usual. Let me see. Let me see. Let's go to anybody who haven't called in yet. Bryce says, my thoughts on that. I don't understand the opposition to things we need. Reparations at the top of the list. Sally says DSA is simply a new iteration of the old moderate Democratic Party. Hey, can you ask Miss Yvette Carnell what her thoughts are on the Green Party and the stance on reparations? That was a great question. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had 5 questions. I only got to 2. And it's kind of like merged into other questions. But yeah, look, me and Miss Yvette will probably need to sit down for like 3 hours to go over all my questions. Because it's such a nuanced conversation that it requires breathing room. You know what I mean? These things aren't so just like cut and dry because of the muddying of the waters that this system has done so that they don't give us the repair that is owed. And at the same time, it's also a muddying of the waters to make sure that the general working class doesn't have much of anything. So then there's a resentment that's built, and some of these, broke people, broke like me, that hear the word reparations and they automatically think, well, we're going to be digging our hands inside their pockets to take money out from them. And we're like, you ain't got no money. We ain't taking nothing from you, fool. We're taking money from these big billionaires that are sitting in these penthouses and living in Calabasas and in the Hamptons. You know what I mean? And got big old properties in Wyoming. Sprawling properties and compounds. And they own islands. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the central bankers that made money off of our bodies. We're not talking about you that ain't got nothing. That's not who we're talking to. That's not who we're talking about. It's like chill. We're not coming for your 8-year-old your 8-year-old car, and your home that you still owe money on, that you're slightly behind on your mortgage, or you're slightly behind on your rent. We're not coming for you. 42 Tribe says, look how fast support for Israel dropped. The left wants a 50 trillion Green New Deal in UBI, which might be just as costly, including $20 trillion with reparations. Isn't crazy. That is true. It is not crazy. In fact, I think I could be wrong. I could be misremembering, but I think the Pentagon can't account for $20 trillion. Like, they mismanage that much money. Like, just put that in perspective, right? Let's say, hypothetically, $1 trillion a year was given to Black Americans as far as cash payments and land grants and tax breaks and things like that. Like, let's just say, hypothetically, like, if it was do $1 trillion a year. If they had started in 2006, we'd be paid off. Let's lower it to 500 million, right? They'd be done by 2046. 2046. That's it. In 20 years, I'll be in my 60s. You know what I mean? If they had started in 2006. It's really not that hard. It's just political will, like she said. Hal 9000 says, punish the far left. You want to punish me? And Hal says, peace through delineation, Reverend Green. We don't even have peace with each other and within the Black American community. What are you talking about, peace through delineation? I mean, you got some Black Americans that are trying to delineate Black men from Black women. You got Black Americans that are trying to delineate Black cisgender and straight freedmen from those of us who are LGBTQ freedmen. You know what I mean? Like that, we gotta fix our own house too. This is why Missy Yvette was talking about we gotta get ourselves in a room. Like we gotta stop discriminating against one another. And part of that is some of the remnants of white supremacy that still exists within our community. We got to get rid of that. We got to delineate ourselves from the white supremacy that is embedded within us too. Like we got to decolonize our minds, because that's one of the things that I see that is still prevalent within the Black community, especially the Black American community, because some of us have taken from the ancestors that do not look like us, that are in our DNA, and we gotta push that out. Including me. I'm including myself in this. Okay. Let's go here. Nihilo says, it's not that capitalism needs to end in order for reparations to happen. It is without an end to capitalism. Reparations have the probability of reproducing contradictions we already know and don't want. But we shouldn't be so concerned with future contradictions that we refuse to resolve current and past contradictions we should have resolved by now. Or the idea that immigration harms a nation, you might want to look at the birth rate and how that relates to immigration, anti-immigration in a society. Not having kids is harmful. I would have to think on that, and I don't have time right now. I'm on the fly, but I see some of your other responses, and so you have some points. You have some points. We have Black Wall Street Odds says, when this study, the economic cost for Black stigmata is long with robust documentation. AI can collect the data from census, solve holding records, Freedmen Bureau. AI even makes this easier. You know what? That's true. That's true. All right. So I'm going to be moving on to the next segment. I just want to make sure I got, most of the people commenting at least something here. Targeteer for Life says, great episode. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I was way behind. Cobra Commander says, save the cheerleader, save the world. I think he did it from what I heard. Dude jumped on a plane at the time. I don't know what that's about. Thank you very much for that, though. All right. And this one, Sheila says, would like to acknowledge the passing of Dr. Johanna Fernandez, Young Lord's historian and prison abolitionist for all political prisoners like Mumia Abu Jamal. She passed on July 30th, 2026 at the age of 55. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Thank you very much for letting me know. Okay. Let's move on to the next segments because I am taking way too long and I want to make sure I end on time. All right, guys. So let's get into the next subjects that we're going to be getting into here. Of course, we had a conversation with Miss Yvette Carnell, but we're now going to be talking about the Florida primary that's happening today. So let's get into primary day. Let's go into this right now. Today is the Florida primary. It is August 18, 2026, and we are now, the polls are open. People are voting for the Democrat primary and a Republican primary. And so there are, people that are in the race that are, they are basically being looked at as the heir apparent to be the nominee. Some are essentially the underdog. And so there's a lot going on within here in the state of Florida. And I think that we should get into this now, because as Florida continues to go in this wayward direction, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's gonna be a huge influence over the rest of the nation. And so I want to share I want to share with you guys a couple of articles that we're going to be getting into, because I think that I think that Byron Donalds may win the Republican primary today. I think I have a feeling that he's going to win pretty handily, even despite the alleged not assault, but the alleged sexual allegations against him for solicitation. That something tells me it just didn't stick. That James Fishback has, pushed out there, basically saying, I don't want to do this, but it pains me to have to say this. And then it's just like, Floridians were like, yeah, nah, we're not hearing you right now, because it's been beaten to death. Like, this is the one thing that they constantly have been pushing towards. So this is out of Newsweek. It says Byron Donalds' chances of winning Florida GOP final primary results. So it says Byron Donalds enters Tuesday Republican primary in Florida governor as the overwhelming favorites, with every major poll in prediction market pointing to a victory for the Trump-backed congressman who has led the race since entering it. So the prediction markets gave Byron Donalds a 97 to 99% chance of winning heading into election day. Now, these prediction markets are really just people throwing their money into a hat and saying, I think Byron Donalds is going to win. This isn't based on political polling data. This is just people going, I think this is who's going to win. Can these be accurate? Yeah, in some ways they can, get close to what people are thinking. At the same time, could they be wildly off? Yes, they can as well. So don't necessarily use those betting markets as a means to gather data for who's actually going to be doing better. But just wanted to keep that as a proviso for you guys to know, like, what is what. Let's continue on, because I really don't want to give too much focus on the prediction markets. Says the final wave of public and partisan polling tells the same story through the size of Donald's leads varies by pollster. A Qantas Insight survey of 635 likely Republican voters conducted in July 27th to the 29th for the partisan client America First Insight found that Byron Donalds at 50%, 34 points ahead of Collins at 16%. Fishback trailed in third place at 12%, and former Florida House Speaker Paul Renner at 4%. It says a Targos market research poll of 532 likely voters conducted July 20th to 26th for the James Madison Institute put Donald at 49% to Collins 18% and a 31-point margin. Renner drew 8% and Fishback in fourth place with 4% in that survey. So here's Byron Donalds. This is a poll from the Political Matrix and the listener group conducted on July 21st to the 22nd among 1,020 likely voters showed a tighter race, with Donalds at 32%, Renner at 19%, and Fishback in third place at 13% through 32% of respondents, though 32% of respondents were undecided. The widest margin came from Fabrizio Lee and Associates polling for the Donalds campaign itself. A survey of 400 likely voters conducted to July 14 to 16 had Donald's at 53% to Collins 10%, a 43-point spread. A second Fabrizio Lee poll released August 10th showed Donald's climbing to 54%. So let's stop here for a second. You have Byron Donalds hovering around 50% in polls. Guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong in some ways where I thought that, because did the Donald Trump backing, the endorsement, was that the major deciding factor as to why Byron Donalds is so popular now? Because that's one of my biggest things. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't see Ron DeSantis backing Donalds like that. So to me, it feels like it's more the Trump approval backing him. At the same time, though, like, Donalds is, I don't know. I wonder if I'm wondering if his policies are really, singing towards people, because ultimately, I wonder if his policies are really singing towards the Republican voters, because you don't hear too much about his policies. Let me just check here. So let me share this, because I want to give you guys a little bit of what he's talking about. So here's one of his policies. It says insurer scorecard. Says the insurer scorecard would make Florida first in the nation to bring price, claims, and insurer performance data together in a single, easy-to-use comparison tool, giving consumers the upper hand and forcing insurers to compete on results. It says modernize, launch, and promote, retool rate compensation tool so it's user-friendly for Florida resident who wants to compare insurance rates on automobile, health, and home insurance. Combine data of various government databases into the rate comparison tool so that the performance data is user-friendly. Blah, blah, blah. I'll launch statewide awareness campaign to increase consumer utilization. Pass legislation that allows for Florida Office of Insurance Regulation to enhance stabilized reporting requirements for insurers. Comparable data on premiums, rate increases, since they codify new insurer reporting requirements. And so he says that insurance needs to be affordable and reliable when storms and accidents happen, right? So he's basically saying that, baby, it's an Obama marketplace. It's just not just from healthcare insurance. It's an ACA marketplace. I don't know how else to put it. It's just a marketplace where you can see like line by line, but how does that really stop these insurers? It doesn't really stop them from price gouging because they can still meet together and keep their prices up. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, it doesn't actually fight. But here's the thing, right? Let's continue on, because if he's really hammering on the actual economic issues, then it's like, yeah, okay, I could see him winning when it comes to that. It says enact the Trump agenda. Well, here's the thing. Here's the problem with the Trump agenda. The Trump agenda has been all it's been all social issues, all culture war, and no real economic policy that's beneficial for the working class. So he loses there, right? Prices are climbing to the point where we can't we can't punch ourselves out of a wet paper bag when it comes to the prices that we're experiencing here in Florida. I mean, look, Professor Richard Wolf was talking about this earlier today, how all these companies got refunds for the tariffs because, of course, the courts have deemed that the tariffs were illegal under U.S. law, and so their tariffs got refunded to these companies. But the problem is these companies did not lower their prices back down pre-tariff price hike. They're keeping the prices the same, and on top of that, instead of passing that savings on to us, they're keeping the prices the same. The refund is now getting absorbed as profits with these companies, these corporations. And so instead of passing it on to us, because they already made that money back, right? Because all they did was raise their prices to cover the tariffs, so they would never have to pay the tariffs. We paid the tariffs because that's how tariffs actually work. They pass the prices on to the cost on to us. So we pay the tariffs, but the companies get the refund for their tariffs, but they don't pass it back on to us. They just keep the money for themselves. And so that's part of the Trump agenda, because these big corporations ended up getting more boatloads of money as subsidies from the government. And so that whole Trump agenda BS, that's not going to work. Fight illegal immigration, says Byron stands with President Trump. He's just putting Trump's name everywhere. Trump. Secure the border, keep our families and communities safe, end taxpayer handouts to illegals. Here's the crazy part, right? He's talking about end taxpayer handouts to illegals. Well, what about the taxpayer handouts to the corporations that are exploiting the undocumented workers? Like, are we going to talk about these big corporations and these capitalists that are honestly the ones behind pulling in, or these people like Marco Rubio that wants to keep the Monroe, aka Don Roe doctrine going by putting sanctions and blockades and destabilizing these countries so that it floods our borders more with people who are undocumented. So then they end up willing to accept exploitation even more. So then they end up having to flee to come here, and more subsidies have to go to them, right? Like, are we going to go after our foreign policy that is one of the main, one of the main epicenters of this issue? But no, they're not going to. See, this is all band-aids to a solution. And the thing is, but at the same time, he's talking about the economic part. And a lot of people don't realize that, these are some of the epicenters of why they don't talk about the underlying cause. They just talk about treating the symptoms. But since it's economic, then okay, well, it's focusing on the economy. Let's look at here, right? Make Florida more affordable. What does that mean? What does that mean? Florida is too expensive for many families and seniors. Byron will work to solve the property insurance crisis. Okay, but how is that going to help us as renters, right? Because the landlords aren't going to pass those savings on to us. Let me make myself bigger for a second. The landlords don't give a damn. They're going to keep the prices high, even if they save more money on property insurance, because they know that if you can pay it, they're going to charge it. So how's that going to help us as renters? First of all, now next, lowering housing costs. Having rent control could help, but rent control is considered illegal here in Florida. So what in the world are you talking about? Because how is that really going to help us at all? Lowering costs of housing. next thing you know, you're going to have the big real estate lobbyists that are going to come and go, hey, well, we can't do that because then that's going to lower our money. Oh, well, sorry, we can't do all that. You know, and then it says, and make Florida more affordable again. Newsflash, for a lot of us, Florida was never really affordable. It was slightly cheaper, but it was never really affordable for most of us. A huge chunk of us, Florida was never affordable. Being less expensive than the expensive states is not affordable. It's like, it's affordable for whom? That's my question. It's like, affordable for whom? Affordable is subjective. And I love when people use this term, affordable. That's a subjective term, right? To Mark Cuban, you know, a Lexus ES300 or a Tesla is affordable. To him, it's affordable. To me, well, I could probably afford, the door handle for a Tesla. Maybe I might be able to afford a hubcap. Maybe one of the switches that goes on the door. That's all I can afford. It'll take me 100 years to afford one of those. But that's what I mean by it's subjective. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so when people say, but at the same time, he's talking about the affordability crisis. He keeps talking about the economic, but it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound that really isn't going to, he's like, protect our conservative values. Byron has a proven record of standing up for our values, from defending Second Amendment rights, protecting life. That means he's just anti-abortion, and keeping radical woke ideology out of schools. He will always fight the left's agenda. What are you talking about? The Democrats already fight the left's agenda. Improve our infrastructure. Yeah, right. We don't have enough of our infrastructure being truly repaired in this state. It hasn't happened enough under Ron DeSantis. What makes you think it's going to happen under Byron Donalds? And then Byron Donalds said to work to complete Everglades restoration, improve water quality, expand access to water supply, and protect our beaches and natural resources to make Florida the most beautiful state in the nation. I mean, that rings very hollow considering that Byron Donalds is pro data center. Like, what? Anyway, so like Byron Donalds that's who's the front runner, right? I just wanted to share that with you guys because I want you guys to know like who this guy is. He is not going to be that much different than Trump. He's not going to be that much different than Ron DeSantis. You're basically getting just a darker skinned version, right, of the same old, same old. So it talks about how Donalds has outraised his rivals by a wide margin, roughly 10 million in contributions in the most recent quarter, compared with well under 1 million for each of his remaining Republican opponents, according to state campaign finance filings. He has also won endorsements from Trump, Rick Scott, Agricultural Commissioner Wilton Simpson, and the full Florida cabinet. So it says the Republican primary may largely be decided, but the general election is a different question. Recent polling suggests Donalds would start with an advantage over Democratic frontrunner David Jolly, who left the Republican Party in 2018, while also showing that another Republican could perform better against him. Here's the thing, right? Let's talk about David Jolly for a second, because David Jolly has been featured on what used to be known as MSNBC. He became a contributor on what is now known as MS Now. And so he is a former Republican. And it's funny because every single time you see somebody in Florida that is a Democrat, that is a front runner, it is somebody that used to be a Republican. They never started off as Democrat, which tells me that they're just saying, I'm basically a Republican. I'm just not as far right as they are. That's basically all he is. David Jolly is just basically like a Joe Manchin style of Democrat. He's a Republican, but he just has a D next to his name, right? He's like Joe Scarborough. You know what I mean? And, it's going to be, and plus, within Florida, they're going to be cheering on Israel all day long. And so when I look at people like David Jolly, I can't help but to think of former Florida Governor Charlie Crist, right? The other orange politician. If you look at Charlie Crist is like if you took Donald Trump and George Hamilton and mashed them together, that's how orange Charlie Crist really is. Anyways, my point is that Charlie Crist was a Republican, and then he moved to the Democratic Party. Was it because he shifted in his ideals and in his political opinions? Or was it because he stayed where he's at? It's just the Republican Party moved further to the right. I'm aiming towards the latter, but that's basically what it is. Like, there's nobody legitimately on the left in the race that I know of. Anybody who might be, they're under no party affiliation, and they might get 0.5% to 1% of the vote. Like, for real. Like, let's take a look here, because I've been looking at the list and I'm just like, who are these people? I've never heard of these people. Let me share here on Ballotpedia. And you'll see for yourself. So, general election. So I don't know So here's the funny part: the Libertarians have a candidate, Scott Jewett. I don't see a Green Party. I'm sorry, but Green Party, where you at? All right. Moliere Dimanche, Jeffrey Dotto, Charles Burkett, Dean Abrams. All these people are NPA, right? Richard Dembinski. I don't see anybody from another third party, right? Here's the Democrats. Evelyn Castillo-Bach, Thomas Fernandez, Dana Foster, there's David Jolly, Dottie Joseph, and Stefan Norman, right? These are the Democrats. But David Jolly is pretty much running away with the nomination. Like, these other people aren't even contender. The one person that was a contender was Jerry Demings. Jerry Demings had to drop out because he got a cancer diagnosis. Who is Jerry Demings, you ask? Jerry Demings is the current mayor of the county I live in Orange County. His wife is Val Demings, who was the congresswoman that was over the 10th district where I live, that was there before Maxwell Frost was the new congressperson. Val Demings was on the short list to be Biden's VP. Remember how Joe Biden said he wanted a black woman as VP? Well, Val Demings was on the short list. Jerry Demings was elected back then as the sheriff of Orange County Sheriff's Department. He was elected to that position. At the same time, his wife Val Demings was elected or promoted, I should say, to the chief of police of the Orlando Police Department. Meaning, within the Orlando Orange County area, the Central Florida area, you had a married couple that was the top people in law enforcement in the entire area. Then he ran for mayor. He became mayor of Orange County. She ran for Congress. She became Congresswoman Demings and had a district in Orange County where her husband was mayor. Then she tried to run for senator. Guess what? She lost. And in losing, she is now basically a civilian. Whereas her husband, still mayor, is now running to be governor of Florida, was running up until July when he got the cancer diagnosis. He was essentially could have been the front runner in the Democratic Party because he has always been a Democrat versus David Jolly just got here 2 seconds ago. That being said, and here's gonna and we're gonna get a little identity politics on you pretty quick. If Jerry Demings had never dropped out and he was the biggest contender against David Jolly, if Jerry Demings won the Democratic primary and Byron Donalds won the Republican primary today, we will be guaranteed the first Black governor of Florida, whichever party wins. It'll be a Black Democrat versus a Black Republican fighting for governor here in Florida. Meaning a lot of Black people will be celebrating in this state. Not me, because I know that both parties are, two cheeks on the same butt. But, of course, he dropped out. So now it's going to be most likely David Jolly versus Byron Donalds. Let's go here. And now here is all of the Republican primary governor candidates. Of course, you have Jay Collins, Byron Donalds, James Fishback, Jim Holcomb, Arthur McAfee, Daniel Nukovich, Paul Renner, Rachel Rodriguez, James Shaw, and Kenneth Sucky. And then, of course, here's all the people who withdrawn or disqualified. And then you have Libertarian primary election, which is Scott Jewett. But my thing is like, I am very curious about like the Green Party. Like Green Party in Florida is pretty prominent, but I don't see anything from them. So that's interesting. But what's even more sad is that even if I wanted to vote for anybody in the primary today, I couldn't. James, why wouldn't you be able to vote? Because Florida is a closed primary state. That means well over a quarter of voters in the state are locked out of choosing the opponents for the general election. And that is something that a lot of people should be talking about as well. Let's get into this article. Hang on. Why is this? Hold on. Let me take this banner down. Okay. Can I see that? Okay. All right. So as voters cast ballots, advocates push to open Florida's closed primary system. So let's take a look here. More than 1 million people have already voted ahead of Florida's August 18th primaries, but the marquee races for governor and senator, millions registered as no party affiliation in PA won't be able to participate because of the state's closed primary election system. Now, I am no party affiliate. I'm MPA. This is how bad it is. So this is Villa Johnson says this. This year, our closed system will shut out 4 million voters that are not registered with a party or with a minority party. That's 28% of the electorate. But even that number doesn't tell the whole story. Many thousands of voters register with a party that they don't support just so that they have a voice in the election. Florida locks out independents. And that is a huge story in itself. The fact that when it comes to primaries, we can choose who we want to run in the general. Meaning we're stuck with who the Democrats and Republicans choose. So then we're sitting here going, okay, well, we have to choose between, y'all trash ass candidate and y'all garbage ass candidate. And it's like, who do we have? Unless you have somebody that's third party that's also running. And then even then, like third party candidates, some of them don't have a chance in hell. Or some third party candidates are trash too. Or independent candidates are trash. And so it's like, we don't have a chance to go, hey, you guys, yeah, that's the best person in your party. You guys, that's the best person in your party. All right, now fight. We're left out. So yeah, that's one of the biggest issues here in Florida. Now, they're trying to have a advocacy for open primaries within the state of Florida. That is more, the Democratic Party is more open to it within the state of Florida. The Republican Party does not want open primaries. Something tells me the Democrats don't really want open primaries either, but they're just playing like they do. But that's one of the biggest things that's happening. When it comes to the race between Byron Donalds and James Fishback, James Fishback is sometimes in third, sometimes in fourth place in the polls. If James Fishback beats Byron Donalds, that would be the biggest upset in history. Major upset. I don't see it happening. I see Byron Donalds running away with the nomination. And there's really no top contender within the Democratic Party, so David Jolly will run away with the Democratic nomination. If Jerry Demings had stayed in, his nomination probably would have been guaranteed because he probably would have gotten all of Orange County, right? Because he's the mayor of Orange County, and Orange County is one of the most populous counties in the entire state. It is massively popular. You got to remember, we have Walt Disney World and we have Orlando here, right? We got all the theme parks. We have, like, this area is massive, right? Orange County is huge. And it's a blue county that encompasses Orlando, which is one of the entertainment capitals of the world. So, yeah, a lot of people would be voting for him within this county for him to win the Democratic primary. So, yes. Says the Sunshine State is one of only 10 with completely closed primary systems. And Updike says that 10,000 Americans change their voter registration from either Republican or Democrat parties to independent every week. As the number of independents rise, the fact that they're shut out of voting in so many states has become more and more controversial. So that's another thing that is I want to bring to your attention is that a lot of us are locked out. I'm locked out. So the only thing I can vote in is the general. I'm going to be keeping an eye on this because gosh, when was the last time we had a Democrat governor? Have we ever had a Democrat governor? Um, yeah, Buddy McKay, and he served from December 1998 to January 1999. Yeah. So, and he was put in that position because of Lawton Childs, who Childs died. So then after that, who do we get? We got Jeb Bush. So we've been on a Republican trajectory ever since the turn of the new millennium. So I don't know how this is gonna be. I'm gonna keep an eye on the primaries today, but rest assured, I'm firmly confident that it is going to be Donalds versus Jolly in the race for governor, and unless something really big happens, I think Donalds may end up winning. But hey, watch this space. All right, guys, go ahead and give a like to the stream. Let's go into the rest of the chat. Okay, we're good there on Rumble. Let's go into here. All right. So thank you so much to Unemployed Scholar for the super chat with the solidarity. Thank you. That means a lot. This is going to be a very interesting day today to watch the polls. Cool Blue. Oh, nice to see you. Another person that you guys should honestly follow on Twitter because Cool Blue is just data driven. Data driven. Cool Blue says in 2016, the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate from Florida was ex-Republican Patrick Murphy. Result, re-election for Marco Rubio. Democrats have also run ex-Republican Governor Charlie Crist. Yeah, they love their former Republicans in the Democratic Party. And I don't know, it's just like, it's constantly like, oh, well, we have to appeal to the right in blah blah blah. It's like, okay, can you just appeal to the working class and go from that route instead of trying to appeal to the culture war aesthetics of the right wing? But it never turns out that way. Let's go into let me see. Roger Mel says Biden said he wanted a black woman on the SCOTUS. It was Charlemagne who said VP got to be a black woman. Thank you very much for correcting me on that. Yeah, because I know he wanted Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's who he ended up choosing. But I think it was also a strategic decision for him to put in Kamala Harris. Just like it was a strategic decision for Barack Obama to have Joe Biden, because Barack Obama wanted the more right-wing white audience in the Democratic Party to go with him because that's why he chose Joe Biden. It wasn't because they actually liked the guy. It was, it was a strategic choice. Nihilo says, yep, affordable housing is a carefully selected term, makes housing still an asset and not a home. Yeah. What wasn't it? Wasn't it Xi Jinping that said houses are not for speculation, they're for living in? Yeah. Um, Sorry, Normal says affordable housing equals LIHTC, which is a scam and is based on an area median income, not your income. Was that low income housing? I don't know what TC. I'm blanking on the rest of that that acronym. My apologies. LTHC is, I'm sorry, LIHTC is 90% of the market and does not work. And also, they said post Reagan, the feds stopped building housing. They need to begin again. Yeah, that's true. You see, Cobra Commander says they make these men on the assembly line. Libs have what is like the fog of war. All they see is Trump, 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 not the framework that produces Trumps. Mm-hmm. You see, Roger says Mamdani is about to make a move that bring housing prices down for the long term via decommodification, via community land trusts, COPA, Community Opportunity Purchase Act. COPA stands for Community Opportunity Purchase Act, aims to convert troubled or speculative properties into permanently affordable, community controlled housing rather than letting private speculative buyers acquire them outright. Well, that's good. If he does something positive for working class community, I'm not gonna knock him for it. You know, this is the job of the activists in the streets to go, hey, we can actually do better than this. You know, that's what I want to see. Activists in the streets going, hey, he's doing this, but we can go further. Sorry, Normal says I moved to Kansas because it was cheap. In just 3 years, rent has doubled and it's not cheap anymore. No, unfortunately not. Edward says my problem with the libertarians is that they believe in the horrible capitalist system. Yeah. Interesting name. Spicy Psyop says, so what have you been doing to change the closed primary status? Have you worked to meet with local reps to push for change? Spoken with your neighbors? I've been doing mutual aid and helping to build dual power because I really don't have much faith in this current system as it operates. And so, as far as the closed primary system, um, I just don't have faith that it will change, even as a crumb that it is. I mean, we can't even manage to get rid of the electoral college. And on top of that, making it into an open primary system will open the doors for more people who are further left to actually compete. But the problem is like the Democrats do not want that because the Democrats, they like the relationship that they have with the Republican Party because they have the boogeyman that they can point to, and the Republican Party can point to the Democrats as being the boogeyman, and so they fundraise off of each other. So no, as far as changing the closed primary status, no, I've actually been helping my neighbors in the streets who are not eating or or having a lack of food or having a lack of clothing or things like that. So that was the battle that I'm been fighting on. Are you doing that? Let me know. I'd like to hear. Sheila says this open primary system will disenfranchise non-whites. poor and working class in New York City because of ranked choice voting. Changes needed, restricting campaign funds for campaigns and signature validation. Oh yeah, thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this, Cool Blue. 1994 was the last Democrat win for governor of Florida. And yes. Cobra Commander, please clap. That was so funny. Roger says, can you see my link? No, Roger, I can't see your link. And whatever you do behind closed doors, man, that's your business. Like, I don't want to see your link, man. I was just kidding. Oh my gosh. You know, Roger, I always kid with you. Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, JB, hey, everyone. Good to see you, Jacqueline. I'm not going to do too much more in the chats, but let's just get some of these done. See, thank you very much, Roger, who's been a member for 6 months now. Man, it's been 6 months. Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. It says, Mr. Softy truck just passed me by and I thought of you. Roger, you again with the jokes, Roger. Again with the jokes. All right. So, can we go to the last segment? I think it is best that we do that. Making sure. All right, so let's go to the final segment because I am behind. Let me make sure I have what I need. Yeah. Is that okay? So I'm going to talk about this one. Trump really stepped in it. And Iran said, I bet. So, of course, we talked to Yvette Carnell. We talked to her about the ADOS organization and the path forward for Black Americans. We also talked about the Florida primary and primary day between James Fishback and Byron Donalds and my predictions of who's going to win. I think it's pretty cut and dry. It's nothing really earth-shattering. But now we're going to talk about Iran offensive and Donald Trump. You in danger, girl. And Donald Trump said, did I just fuck up? And Khamenei said, yes, you did, John. That you did, Dawn. Yeah, I can't talk today. But let's get into this. Donald J. Trump just put us in danger. What else is new? But he also put the U.S. military in danger as well because he can't keep his big mouth shut. James, what are you talking about? Let me show you. I can show you better than I can tell you. Because this is just, it's stupid. That's what it is. Let me share this with y'all. This is Donald Trump on Truth Social. It says new U.S. territory and talks about the Strait of Hormuz. So this is out of the Hormuz letter. It says Trump declares that the Strait of Hormuz is now officially U.S. territory. This is the, hang on, I got to make myself bigger for this one. This is the dumbest thing that Trump has done in 5 minutes. because he's done a lot of dumb things. Trying to declare something that does not belong to us as the United States. Iran is like, you know what? We're done with you. We're done. You can't be negotiated with. We out. And they have been trying to be the adults in the room. To their chagrin, they can't, right? So because of this, I'm going to share this, and then we're going to get into an article. And things are going to get so much worse. Oh, they're going to get so much worse. So let's share this out of the Hormuz letter. It says, breaking. Iran has officially decided to shift its policy from defensive to fully offensive, setting a new deadline for Trump, and realized the mediators are working for Trump, as a senior Iranian official tells Reuters. Iran has set a deadline of a few weeks for the full implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding and all Iranian demands by the U.S., with the Iranian official saying, quote, "It is a proven fact that the U.S. is not serious about a ceasefire and won't commit to any, so putting pressure on the enemy or relying on mediators in the hope of reaching a permanent ceasefire is not realistic," end quote. Says all Iranian entities will be prepared to escalate in the Strait of Hormuz and the region, with Iran saying it will not wait for the U.S. to continue the naval blockade indefinitely. So when Iran says, now we're going to go on the offensive, it has hit the fan. Look, it already hit the fan back in February, right? We're 6 months into this war. Billions of dollars wasted, lives lost. The United States is getting its ass handed to them. And you mean to tell me that because of your fecklessness and your dedication to making just as much money as possible off these markets, that you've pushed Iran to a point where now they have to go on the offensive? In the race against ignorance and stupidity, your opponent has lapped you multiple times, Donald. To the point where things are going to be getting even worse for us. And I'm just going to go over this, and I want to show you guys the results of this blockade that has broke down things even further within our country. Let's get into this. All right, guys. Iran signals readiness for U.S. ground operations as strategy shifts gear. So let's get into this. Iranian authorities have signaled that they could shift to a more offensive approach to the war with the United States as a memorandum of understanding with Washington expires. Brigadier General Yadola Javani, head of the political bureau of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, told the state television on Sunday night that his forces were ready to take whatever action is needed to defend the country. Says tensions between Iran and the U.S. over control of the Strait of Hormuz have continued to rise despite a ceasefire being agreed between them in June, while the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, effectively collapsed after fighting restarted last month. The agreement officially expires on Monday. Now, Giovanni says that the enemy started the war and our efforts have been defensive, although they might take on an offensive aspect. He said he did not elaborate on what exactly the offensive measures could entail, but said opponents should expect quote-unquote strategic surprises. When Iran says expect surprises, you're going to be surprised. It's like, surprise, motherfucker. It's like you don't know what's coming. They have been able to beat back the United States. Here's the thing, right? A lot of people are thinking to themselves, like, wait, if the United States is winning this war, why is there still a blockade at the Strait of Hormuz? That's the point, y'all. First of all, Donald Trump is performing for us to make it look like something's moving. At the same time, he knows that war is a racket. War makes money. The goal of war is not to win. The goal of war is war. And it's not just because they want to kill people. It's because they make profit off of doing so. Every bullet that's fired, every missile that's launched, every radar that's used, every single uniform, boot, bayonet, helmet, every single vest, every single piece of artillery, everything costs money. And that is being made by private corporations. And so in order for them to be able to make money, they actually have to be making more of those things. Well, how do they get destroyed? Through war. So then they can make more, so then you can spend more, and they can keep making more money. War is the goal. Peace is not the goal. War is the goal so that they can make more money. And Donald Trump knows this. So he really has no incentive to end the war. He wants to keep the war going because he knows that that's making his buddies money. And this goes with the Democrats too. They do the same thing. It's never really about ending the war. It's about just making more dollars. It's about securing the bag, baby. That's what it is. Let's continue on. Now, he said IRGC spokesman Hossein Mohebi last week identified U.S. and regional allies' infrastructure, such as energy networks, power plants, and internet connected systems as potential targets if the U.S. hits Iran's civilian infrastructure. Hardline Iranian politicians and media outlets have discussed the idea of mounting a ground incursion against U.S. interests in Bahrain and Kuwait if Washington invades Iran. Analysts have raised questions over the feasibility of that risk involved, while there is no recent indication that the U.S. is planning ground operations in Iran. So, it is Khamenei said Major General Ahmad Vahidi's rise to commander-in-chief of the IRGC must represent a mix of maximum deterrence with readiness for powerful offensive operations against the enemy. Vahidi said Khamenei's leadership and the Iranian armed forces have managed to bring to its knees the most heavily armed army in the world history. After the U.S. and Israel launched strikes in Iran on February 28th, starting a fierce fighting between the two sides. Also, you gotta think about it, right? This is a 1v2. It's a 1v2, man. Well, technically it's a 1v1 because, to be honest with you, let's be real. Israel is just a U.S. military base. Like, y'all know that, right? This is a U.S. military base where, kids are raised to be the soldiers there. Kids are born and raised to be soldiers on a U.S. military base, right? But it's basically a 2v1, right? And the fact that Iran can beat back Israel and the United States simultaneously at the same time, while seemingly not that advanced, y'all, Iran's nobody to play with. And I think the United States really underestimated the power that Iran really has. You got to remember, right? Iran, their first leader was Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great. Head of the Medo-Persian Empire. This country has been around for 5,000 years. They know what the heck they're doing. The United States has only been around for 250. 250 versus 5,000. They know what they're doing. But let's get into some of the issues, right, that surround what's going to be happening for us. And I want to share this with you guys because there's going to be some further pain happening because of this war. And it's going to be affecting us. So this is out of the Hormuz letter. It says, breaking U.S. diesel crack. The gap between diesel and crude has just hit a record $102.20 for the first time in history. Food is about to get a lot more expensive. Agriculture runs on diesel equipment and shipping. Heating oil is next ahead of winter, and everything moved by truck or ship will drive inflation higher. The industrial economy either grinds to a halt or consumers are about to be hit with the biggest energy pass-through in history as refining costs transmit downstream into higher prices for businesses and consumers. And they show the graph here. So if you look at this graph, right, you see from December 2025, it dips down, then it goes up starts climb up in January. Then right in the beginning of February, then that's when we see, towards the end of February, that's when the war happens, right? Then you see this boost. And then they say, oh, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. Then boom, hit that. And then negotiations, and it opens and closes and opens and closes and opens and closes and up and down and up and down. Now we're towards the middle of August, and now we are at this point where it is even higher than it was when we first closed the Strait of Hormuz. Things are about to get worse, and this is why I talk about mutual aid and building dual power. This is when foreign policy affects domestic policy at home. Because your groceries, your electric, if you get gas, especially heating oil for your home, all the goods that you get, it's all going to go up. Is your pay going to go up with it? No. So things are going to get more expensive. You're going to be suffering because the Trump administration needs to make as much money off this war as possible. The military defense contractors need to make, and the military producers, they need to make as much money as possible. So they're going to screw you in order to get it. Donald Trump fucked up. Big time. This is going to hurt you. It's going to hurt me. Think about it, right? Hell, medications travel by diesel. And they're ending Medicare Part B. So not only are medications going to be higher, I literally had to do a new crowdfunding just so that I can afford my medications. And so now what? Right? You're not going to be able to afford as much food that you need. Are you going to be able to get yourself to and from where you need to go? Because what type of fuel is used to transport gasoline to the gas stations? Oh, they transport the gas to the gas stations for you to pump with diesel fuel in those trucks. What type of fuel is used in those cargo ships? Diesel. What type of fuel is used in those freight trains? Diesel. Your healthcare costs are going to go up because they had to transport the syringes, the bags of saline, all these different things to hospitals, right? You need shoes, clothes. Your housing is going to go up. The price to be able to build a home is going to go up. How do they transport the lumber? How do they transport the concrete? And it's like all these different things. All for who? For a small segment of the population to own everything, and you have nothing. That's what this is. That's what this line represents. And they can talk about, oh, we're going to make things better for you economically. Stop the war, and you can automatically do that. Like, it's crazy when we think about it. If you stop these wars and stop giving money to these military contractors, stop giving money and funds to Israel and things like that, guess what? You have extra money to give to the American people. And we won't have to suffer as much. But it's never about us. It's always about what they can do for the ruling class. What can they do for the people closer to the top? And then there's this. Do one more. This adds salt to the wound. But I see Iran doing what they deem is necessary. It says, breaking the follow-up recent meetings among top officials, Iran has reportedly completed the groundwork for a permanent toll system, routing ships through an Iranian-controlled northern route per Iranian sources. If Iran applies previously reported fees of 5 to 7% of cargo value are applied, potentially generating up to $100 billion annually. The framework would give Iran authority over traffic management, transit permits, toll collection, and vessel services. At 7%, the toll could generate roughly $385 million per day. A VLCC carrying 2 million barrels could face a fee of about $11 million, with the collection cost reportedly minimal. At pre-war traffic levels, projected annual revenue could approach $100 billion, comparable to the annual profits of Alphabet, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, and Saudi Aramco. So it's not just the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, it's also Iran forcing tolls and collecting the reparations from what the United States has done to their country and Israel has done to their country. And who has to pay that? We do. So this is why this is so important. Trump screwed up big time. But I should have titled it, Trump screwed us big time. Because that's exactly what's happening. So as long as this war continues, as long as this system of, war fighting, then profits are made, wars fought, profits are made, then everything goes up, we're going to continue to suffer. War does us no good. The only people that it helps are the small little people, little bit of people at the top. When will this war end? Some drastic changes are going to need to happen. And when those drastic changes happen, I hope that we're able to weather the storm for the blowback from the parasite class. All right, guys, thank you so very much. Let's go into the chats. Let me go and see if we have any Rumble rants. I think we're good there. Let's go into see if we have any super chats, super stickers, all the good things. Edward says, I am worried that Trump may nuke Iran because he wants a deal, and Iran does not trust the U.S. for good reason. I hope it's not true. You know what? That's also something I forgot to bring up. Hang on. Thank you for reminding me. This is from the Telegraph. Trump weighing nuclear attack on Iran as peace deal expires. I don't need no golfer. So now they want a paywall. But that headline is atrocious. Trump weighing a nuclear attack. That's how bad it is. That's how dangerous it is right now, guys. And the ruling class, man, they want that money. And they will risk the lives of millions to get it. I don't know. Like, something drastic really needs to happen in order for us to fight against that. Let me see if I have it now, just so you guys can see. Okay. So on today's episode of Iran the Latest, Benedia Rainey and Roland Oliphant discuss why U.S. politician Marjorie Taylor Greene's bizarre nuclear claim may be less crazy than it first appears, on how an underground nuclear facility in Pickaxe Mountain could be the potential target. They also look at the state of war 60 days from the ill-fated Memorandum of Understanding peace deal and why Iran is more bullish than ever. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy Jared Kushner is in Israel to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu about Trump's Gaza peace deal after meeting with Hamas leader in Egypt. Jerusalem correspondent Henry Bodkin in the West Bank explains what Kushner wants and discusses his dispatch from the West Bank amid a rise in military operations and settler terrorism. Plus, Iran's missing pilots, the Houthis strike again against the Red Sea, and why the Iran war has prompted Trump to scale back U.S. key South Korea military drills. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually all true, that he's actually weighing nuclear attack options. They will destroy the world before they let anybody have it, before they let the people have it collectively. And yes, Holly, Tupac said they got money for war, but not the poor. My God, today. Edward says Trump doesn't care about the working class. He did away with Medicare Part D. Jacqueline says Trump fucked up and won't be him that pays for it. It will be the ordinary citizens of the U.S., and it might also be people in other countries who will be affected by his actions. Absolutely. Absolutely. Neolo says American hegemony was in crisis before February 28th. They are caught in a catch-22, and it's glorious. Says it sucks paying the cost of it, but it screws tighten American imperialists. CLS says more individuals will be fired in order to investors promise profits to come in this capitalist three-card Monty to continue. Data banks and AI continue well-being and to take rights away from us. My God. Ellen says, did you talk about a guy who was on Sunday show and they cut him off and the useful idiots had him on to answer questions? I think is racist today. I'm not familiar with who you're talking about, but I'll have to look into that. Great question. Hello says, if Trump does that, what would China do? Ask people once again to have respect for international law. I don't know, man. Oh, Ellen says Oliver Lynn. Oh, Oliver Larkin. Yeah, I didn't get to see that. I was at work. I wasn't able to take a look into that. Roger says, hey guys, I've declared New York State is now Roger territory because I said so. Roger, if you take over New York State, can you give me a chopped cheese and a black and white cookie? Also a slice of pizza. Pepperoni, please. Appreciate it. Man, so much going on. All right, guys. So I am way over time. I know it. Yeah, I'm over. But I will be. Did I meet the super chat goal? Not today. That's okay. We did all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. So next week, of course, I will be live once again. I hope you guys are able to tune in, and I just want to give a big thank you to Miss Yvette Carnell for joining me for that, lively discussion about really the path forward for Black Americans. And I hope you guys got, quite a bit out of it, found some value in it. because we really do need to have this discussion even more these days. Let me end with a funny video, because I do want to help us to laugh so that we don't start crying. Thank you very much for this. Unemployed Scholar says the colonial state is getting weaker and running out of options. Let's keep them on the defensive. Thank you very much for that as well. Hello, Killer Grigoris is in here as well. Good to see you. I think it was on Instagram. Instagram better cooperate today, or Instagram will turn into Ustagram. Because, I don't play that. Yes, of course, that's it. Instagram will be called Ustagram. Let me see. I don't know if it's gonna. I know last time. Okay. Okay. Now, as Black people, we come from different regions in the country, and sometimes, we have dialects and ways of speaking that sometimes even some of us Black people don't understand each other. But it's funny to see how a lot of us it's somewhat difficult for some of us to say certain words. And so I want to share this with y'all because I think this is pretty funny, because I just love seeing this and how we are. And so let me share this with y'all. Because I think you guys are going to get a chuckle out of it. So let's share this and show how some of us in the diaspora pronounce things. All right, let's go.
The board is back with another segment of words people from St. Louis can't pronounce. Let's get it. We're going to start off real simple. Real simple, okay? I bet y'all can say this word right here.
Can't.
No, that's not how you. That ain't how you say that word. It ain't. Can't. Can't. The word is can't.
Oh my.
Can we try to get 2 for the 15? I can't even do it, bro.
Can't even do it.
The last word was a little too easy for y'all. Okay, cool. Say this word right here. I said elbow you and your mother. That ain't how you say that word. It ain't bird. It's cold in here. Motherfuckers say bird. It's beer. Shit, I don't drink hard liquor. I don't even fuck with that little bird.
Bird.
Oh, those words was too easy? Those last words a little too easy for y'all. Okay, say this one right here.
Skirt.
I elbow you in your face. It ain't skirt. Motherfuckers say skirt.
Skirt. What's wrong with that?
Skirt.
Skirt.
Scared. Hey, you gonna have to do more than pull out that little gun. I ain't scared of that motherfucker. What? Enough with the easy shit. Let's turn this up a notch. Tell me what this word is, St. Louis.
Aluminum foil.
You know that ain't how you say that word. Motherfucker say aluminum foil. That ain't how you say that word. It's aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil.
No, this word gonna whoop y'all ass. Say this word right here, St. Louis.
Air fryer.
Motherfucker say air fryer. No, that ain't how you say that word. That ain't how you say that. Air fryer. Okay? A little piece of rose that I'm trying to put them motherfuckers in the air fryer. Y'all crazy. Okay, let's try one more word, okay? Just one more. If y'all say this word, you win. Okay, I'll be done with this shit. Okay, let's say this St. Louis right here.
Marinara.
That ain't how you say that word. It ain't no mother. Marinara. That ain't how you say that word. It's marinara. I'm not eating no
marinara sauce.
Y'all ghetto ass.
Mozzarella sticks and marinara.
Oh yeah.
So, if you know somebody from St. Louis, ask them to say for real. They're gonna say for real. It just blends together. Instead of for real, it's for real. Woo! All right, guys, gotta get going. Gotta get going. But thank you so very much to everybody for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next one. Of course, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Continue to fight for liberation for, people who are marginalized within this country. And let's try to decenter ourselves when it comes to certain conversations, right? Like for me, as a grown man, cisgender man, I tried not to center myself when we're talking to women, right? Or as a cisgender person, I try not to center myself as a cis man, right? You know what I mean? Like I carry some privilege, not like, others, but I try to make sure I don't censor myself, and I try to make sure I listen and keep that paternalistic type of, thought process away so that we actually can listen and hear each other, even if it doesn't feel very comfortable, right? And also it's important to talk to people who we may have some disagreements with. Like I disagree with Miss Yvette on some things and we agree on some others, right? But as well as it's not good to keep ourselves in an echo chamber. So keep that in mind. Thank you so very much to everybody for joining in. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. And forehead kisses. Also, watch something revolutionary. Watch something funny if you can't smoke them if you got them or drink them if you got them. Or read because reading is fundamental, right? I love you for who you are. And you guys take care and have a beautiful evening. Watch the polls here in Florida. Don't get on the poll, just watch the polls. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here.